Welcome to the Cosmic Busker. My name is Bobby Cody. In this video I want to take a look at Ancient Martian Civilization's timeline of discovery. Basically I want to take a look at the beginnings of our findings regarding ancient civilizations, why NASA has been covering it up, and also some of my own personal discoveries in researching this subject matter. This all began in 1976 with our Viking orbiter. We sent a Viking orbiter to Mars, orbited Mars, and it began taking pictures of the surface. NASA had a news conference in 1976 to announce they had found what they described as a face on Mars, and as you can see here, they showed a picture of it. NASA then said, subsequent photos proved that this was just a trick of light and shadow. It's not really a face. It's just what because of this way the sun is and the way the shadows play, it looks like a face. That proved to be false. There were two image processing specialists by the name of DiPietro and Molenaar. They were going through NASA's catalogs shortly out thereafter. I believe it was a couple of years out thereafter. It wasn't too long after. They began going through NASA's catalogs of these Viking orbiter photos. They found another photo of this area. Rather than proving this to be a trick of light and shadow, this next photo actually proved that it was more of a face. It looked even more like a face than the previous photo had. So NASA lied. Now, the obvious question we have is, why would NASA lie about something like this? I want to cover that right away, because that's something important to understanding why it's been a decades-long attempt to obfuscate proof that Mars once had a civilization long time ago. When we first developed our capacity to send craft into orbit, I believe late 50s, I think 59, 1960 was when we first started sending craft into orbit, both America and Russia. Russia was the first, it was Sputnik. There were obvious long-term plans to develop the technology further, explore space, other planets, and our whole solar system. As part of those plans, the American government contracted an esteemed think tank called the Brookings Institute to explore the ramifications of what such exploration and discoveries could mean for America and for the world and our human species as a whole. The Brookings Institute, in response, prepared a report for the American Space Agency, NASA. The report, published in December of 1960, and seen here, was called, was called Proposed Studies on the Implications of Peaceful Space Activities for Human Affairs. In particular was the concern that during our exploration of the solar system and other planets, NASA might find evidence that our solar system had been visited in the past, or we might find evidence of past or present extraterrestrial activities in our solar system itself. The big question the report faced was how that might affect human civilization on Earth, both positively and negatively, and how the government could safely handle such a discovery. I'm going to read from the Brookings Institute report, Proposed Study and Implications of Peaceful Space Activities for Human Affairs right now. It states, historical and empirical studies of the behavior of peoples and their leaders when confronted with dramatic and unfamiliar or social pressures. Obviously, the discovery of extraterrestrial life or civilization is just one of those unfamiliar events or social pressures. Such studies might help to provide programs for meeting and adjusting to the implications of such a discovery. Questions one might wish to answer by such studies would include: how might such information, under what circumstances, be presented to or withheld from the public for what ends? What might be the role of the discovering scientists and other decision makers regarding the release of the fact of discovery? So right away, right there, in this December of 1960 report, they're talking about potentially withholding this information from the public. Now, why would they possibly think about withholding this information from the public? Because of our past experience here when an advanced civilization encounters a lesser civilization. If the advanced civilization doesn't wipe out the lesser civilization, we have an abundance of examples of that here on planet Earth among humans. Europeans pretty much wiped out the American Indians. The British, when they went to India, they colonized India and subjected them to horrible rule, dictatorial rule. But even if the activities of the more advanced civilization towards the lesser civilization are more benign and more peaceful, it still can have dramatic effects for the lesser civilization and destroy it. For example, the lesser civilization, the young are like, wow, this advanced civilization is really cool. I gotta go and check it out, and it's exciting, and it represents more opportunity for them. So they leave their civilization for this more advanced civilization, and all the young leave, and then the lesser civilization no longer has the young around to procreate and continue the civilization, to carry forward their traditions and their civilization, and ultimately the older individuals of the civilization die out. Nobody there to keep the civilization. It just collapses. So that was the real danger, and that why they would withhold this information potentially from the public. So as you see, the government has more than enough justification to withhold information from the public. I should state that one of the ways that civilizations, lesser civilizations, have succeeded in integrating more advanced civilizations into their society is the Japanese model. What the Japanese did was they kind of, once they met Western civilization, and they kind of put everything on hold. They said, all right, wait, we're going to keep you guys at bay. We're not going to kind of let you guys come in. We're not going to let everything that you guys have in here. We're going to take select elements, allow it to infiltrate into our society slowly, and integrate it with our culture. And the Japanese were able to successfully integrate Western civilization technology into their culture without it collapsing their society. So that's the model, and that essentially has been the model that has been used for decades to get the information out to the public about what is really going on in our solar system, and that there is, in fact, has been an ancient civilization in the past, and more than likely currently activities as well of what we can term extraterrestrial species, or other than human species and civilizations. I'd like to go now to back to the face on Mars. As I stated, 1976, face on Mars, NASA said just a trick of light and shadow. This gentleman, Vince DiPietro, he's a senior systems engineer, image processing specialist, who worked with NASA. He developed several image clarification techniques and designed and built them. He has an esteemed pedigree in that regard. He and Vince DiPietro and a gentleman, Greg Molenaar, they found further evidence that not only wasn't the face on Mars not a trick of light and shadow, that it was in fact a face. They also found other very interesting objects around in the area. I'm going to put a picture up there. You can see in the upper right hand corner the face on Mars, and down to the left and below it, almost to the bottom left hand corner, you see several objects there that I shouldn't say we, Richard Hoagland and his research teams have, and I'll talk more later about Richard Hoagland, have termed the city. That city, there are little, right in the direct middle of that city, it looks perfectly at a profile of the face. If you were standing in the middle of that little city, right in the corner in the bottom there, and you looked out, it looks perfectly at the profile of the face on Mars. Now, there's also what's called the D&M period, the D&M pyramid. The D&M pyramid is actually named after DiPietro and Gregory Molenaar. DiPietro, D, Molenaar, M. Thus it's called the D&M pyramid, because they were the ones who first discovered it. I'll put right there, you can see the original image of the D&M pyramid. They looked at that, they said, wow, it doesn't conform to the geology of the area. That looks like it's an artificial construction, but it looks like it's been damaged, whether by potentially warfare, as I've discussed before. I'll put a link up there for that. Either through warfare or natural erosion over time. So what they did was they attempted to measure all the angles and see what this object may have originally looked like. And what they found is that it is a 5-sided pyramid in the Cydonia region of Mars.